You know that feeling when you're about to face something terrifying, but deep down you sense the universe is about to reveal a massive truth? That was me, standing at my mom's funeral. My heart felt like it was being crushed, but there was this strange calmness washing over me as I prepared to see her walk in. 7 years, 7 brutal years since my own sister Madison stole Tyler, my millionaire fiancé, and the man I thought would be my forever. I hadn't laid eyes on either of them since that awful day, but when they finally walked through those doors, Madison showing off that enormous diamond with her typical smug expression, she had absolutely no clue who was standing there waiting to greet her. And trust me, the look on her face when she found out who I had married was absolutely priceless. My mom, Laura, was always the heart of our family. She was the person who kept everyone connected. Growing up in our modest house just outside Boston, Mom taught me about inner strength and holding your head high no matter what. Our connection was incredibly special and only grew stronger as the years went by. Even after I got my own place in downtown Boston and started working as a marketing executive, I called her almost every single day. She was my best friend, my advisor, and my biggest cheerleader. So when Mom got diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer 8 months ago, my entire world shattered into a million pieces. Despite all the aggressive treatments and experimental therapies, we knew time was slipping away. But Mom handled everything with such incredible grace. She was more worried about us than herself, even when the pain got unbearable. Her final weeks were peaceful, surrounded by family at the house where she raised us. She passed away holding my hand, whispering that I would find peace in my life someday. 6 years earlier, when I was 31, my life looked perfect on the surface. I had a solid career, amazing friends, and a beautiful apartment overlooking the harbor. But something was missing. I was working 62-hour weeks, going on dates here and there, but nothing ever felt real or lasting. Then I met Tyler Anderson through my college friend Alina at this charity gala. Tyler was magnetic. He was charming, had this incredible smile, and the kind of confidence that just filled up the entire room. At 37 years old, he had built himself into a self-made tech millionaire. He was exactly the kind of success story that business magazines loved to feature. Our chemistry was instant and electric. We both loved art galleries, traveling to exotic places, and dreaming big. I remember calling my mom after our first date at this fancy seafood restaurant overlooking the water. I told her, "Mom, I have met someone truly special." Our relationship took off like a rocket. Weekend getaways to Martha's Vineyard, symphony concerts, intimate dinners at exclusive restaurants. That became our normal routine. Tyler was so attentive and generous, always bringing thoughtful gifts and planning these elaborate romantic dates. After 16 months together, he proposed with a 6-carat diamond ring during a private dinner on a yacht in Boston Harbor. I said yes without even thinking twice. My parents were thrilled beyond words, especially Mom. She immediately started imagining the perfect wedding. Tyler had the financial resources to make any dream come true, and Mom kept insisting we should not hold back on anything. Then there was my younger sister, Madison. She was only 2 years younger than me, but our relationship had always been complicated. Growing up, we were close in some ways, but there was always this underlying competition between us. If I had something, she wanted it too, from toys to friends to attention from our parents. If I achieved something, she had to match it or do even better. Mom always tried to keep the peace by giving each of us individual attention and quality time. Despite our history, I chose Madison as my maid of honor. Mom said it would bring us closer, and I desperately wanted to believe that as adults we had outgrown that childish jealousy. When I introduced Madison to Tyler during a family dinner, she absolutely gushed over him. I noticed her touching his arm and laughing way too hard at his jokes, but I brushed it off as just Madison being her typical flirtatious self. We hosted our engagement party at my parents' beautiful colonial-style home. Madison helped Mom with all the decorations, hanging fairy lights everywhere, and arranging fresh flowers. Throughout the whole evening, I kept catching her staring at Tyler from across the room, but whenever our eyes met, she would quickly smile and raise her champagne glass to me in a toast. Later that night, after all the guests had left, Mom pulled me aside in the kitchen. She said,
Emily, sweetheart, I noticed Madison seems quite taken with Tyler. I told her, she's just being friendly, Mom. Besides, she's dating that pharmaceutical sales rep, Nathan. Mom nodded slowly, but she did not look convinced at all. She told me, just be careful, honey. You know how your sister can get when she sees something she really likes. I kissed her cheek and assured her everything was fine. I told her, we're adults now, Mom. Madison is happy for me. I'm absolutely sure of it. Oh, how wrong I was. How terribly, devastatingly wrong. 3 months before our wedding, I started noticing tiny changes in Tyler's behavior. He began working later and later, constantly responding to texts at strange hours. He always had the excuse of international clients in different time zones. Our regular Friday date nights started getting canceled more and more because of emergency meetings. When we were actually together, he seemed distracted, constantly checking his phone and only giving me partial attention. Even more disturbing was how he started criticizing little things about me that he used to say he loved. My laugh was suddenly too loud when we were out in public. My favorite blue dress that he used to compliment now made me look washed out, according to him. Even my habit of reading before bed, which he used to think was adorable, suddenly became annoying because the light kept him awake.
Meanwhile, Madison started calling me more and more frequently, always asking detailed questions about wedding plans. She kept saying, I just want everything to be absolutely perfect for my big sister. Even though Mom was handling most of the actual planning, Madison kept offering to help with vendor meetings that I could not attend because of my demanding work schedule. Tyler and I went to dinner at this upscale Italian restaurant one Thursday evening. He barely looked at me and responded to my stories about work with one-word answers. When his phone buzzed for the 5th time that night, I finally had enough. I asked him, is there something more important happening somewhere else? He put his phone face down and said, sorry, just work stuff. You know how crazy it gets before a major product launch. Later that same week, while I was doing laundry, I noticed a strange perfume smell on Tyler's collar. It was floral and heavy, completely different from the light citrus scent I always wore. When I confronted him about it, Tyler explained that he had been in meetings all day with a potential investor named Rebecca Mills, who apparently wore very strong perfume and hugged him goodbye. The explanation seemed reasonable enough. I wanted so badly to believe him. I called my best friend Alina the next morning over coffee to share my concerns. She stirred her cappuccino and told me, every relationship gets rocky right before the wedding. Parker and I fought constantly the month before our wedding, and now we have been happily married for 5 years. But the knot in my stomach would not go away no matter what she said. Mom noticed my anxiety during our weekly Sunday dinner. She reached across the table, touched my hand gently, and said, you seem distracted, sweetheart. Is it wedding stress or something else entirely? I forced a smile and told her, just wrapping up all the final arrangements, everything is completely fine. But everything was definitely not fine. I started trying harder, thinking maybe I had been taking Tyler for granted somehow. I scheduled a spa day for us, bought expensive new lingerie, and attempted to cook all his favorite meals. But the harder I tried to connect with him, the more distant he became. Then came the cake tasting appointment that Tyler had been looking forward to for weeks. That morning he called saying he had an unexpected emergency meeting with investors. He told me, Madison can go with you instead. She knows my preferences anyway. I felt sick to my stomach after I hung up the phone. How did my sister know my fiancé's cake preferences better than I did? Still, I called her and she agreed to come with me. The next day, while I was cleaning out Tyler's car before a dinner party we were hosting, I found an earring wedged between the passenger seat and the center console. It was a dangling silver earring with a small sapphire stone. I recognized it immediately. It was Madison's. My sister had worn those exact same earrings to my engagement party. They were a gift from our grandmother. When I showed Tyler the earring that evening, his expression was perfectly calm and composed. He said, oh, your sister must have dropped it when I gave her a ride to the florist last week.
His voice was totally steady. She mentioned she had lost an earring somewhere. I said, "You never told me you drove Madison to the florist." He replied casually, "Did I not? It must have slipped my mind completely. It was not important." When I called Madison to ask her about it, her story matched his exactly, way too perfectly. She said, "Oh, thank goodness. I have been searching everywhere for that earring. Tyler was sweet enough to give me a ride because my car was in the repair shop." That night, I could not sleep at all. My mind was racing with questions. Had they rehearsed their story together? Was I being paranoid and crazy? My weight started dropping rapidly from the stress, and dark circles appeared under my eyes. I started seeing a therapist without telling Tyler anything about it. 3 weeks before the wedding, Tyler suggested we should postpone everything. He said, "I'm really worried about you, Emily. You haven't been yourself lately at all. Maybe we're rushing into this too fast." I completely broke down, begging him to tell me what was wrong, what I had done, and how I could fix whatever was broken between us. He held me and promised that everything was okay, but his eyes looked completely empty and cold. That night, I woke up at 3 a.m. to find Tyler's side of the bed empty. I could hear his whispered voice coming from the guest bedroom down the hallway. He was saying, "Not now, she'll hear us. I know, very soon, I promise you." The next day, I decided to surprise Tyler with lunch at his office. My dad, Robert, called me while I was leaving my apartment building. He said, "Emily, are you eating properly? Your mother says you have lost way too much weight. We're getting really concerned about you." I told him, "I'm fine, Dad, just normal pre-wedding jitters. I'm actually bringing Tyler lunch at his office right now." He said, "Good, that boy better be treating my daughter like an absolute queen." If only he knew what was really happening. The security guard at Tyler's building recognized me and waved me through with a friendly smile. During the elevator ride up to the 12th floor, I checked my reflection in the mirrored walls, trying to smooth out the worry lines that had formed between my brows. My lunch bag contained Tyler's favorite sandwich from the deli near my office. When I arrived at the reception area, Tyler's secretary, Michelle, looked up from her computer. Her eyes widened in complete surprise. She said, "Emily, we were not expecting you today at all." Her eyes flickered nervously to Tyler's closed office door, then back to me. She added quickly, "Tyler is in a very important meeting right now."
I told Michelle that is okay. I just brought him lunch. I can wait out here. Michelle immediately stepped in front of me, blocking my path. She said, "Actually, he specifically asked not to be disturbed under any circumstances. Maybe I could let him know you are here first?" Something about her nervous behavior immediately raised every red flag in my mind. I asked her directly, "Is he alone in there, Michelle?" Her hesitation told me absolutely everything I needed to know. Before she could react or stop me, I walked right past her and pushed open Tyler's office door. I will never, ever forget that scene as long as I live. Tyler was leaning against his mahogany desk with his hands firmly on my sister's waist. Her arms were wrapped tightly around his neck, and their lips were locked in an intense, passionate kiss. Neither of them noticed me at first, which gave me several agonizing seconds to process every single detail. Madison's skirt was pushed up, Tyler's tie was loosened, and the familiarity in their embrace told me this had happened countless times before. When the door clicked shut behind me, they jumped apart like they had been electrocuted, 3 frozen faces in a tableau of absolute horror. Tyler immediately said, "Emily, this is not what it looks like at all." Madison did not even attempt such an obvious lie. Instead, she lifted her chin defiantly and said, "We did not plan this. It just happened naturally." The calmness that flooded through me was completely unexpected. I asked in a steady voice, "How long has this been going on?" Tyler looked at Madison nervously, then back at me. He said, "Emily, let us talk about this privately, please." I repeated my question louder. "How long?" Madison answered for both of them. She said, "Since the engagement party.
For months. For months, nearly half of our entire engagement period, while I was choosing wedding invitations and meeting with florists and selecting floral arrangements, they had been sneaking around behind my back, betraying me in the worst possible way. Tyler stepped behind his desk, creating physical distance like he was preparing for a difficult business negotiation. He said, "I did not mean for this to happen, Emily. Sometimes feelings just change. People grow apart." I shot back, "After what? After the wedding? After our honeymoon? When exactly were you planning to tell me?" He responded in that practiced, smooth voice he used during tough client meetings. He said, "I was trying to find the right moment to have this conversation." The lunch bag slipped from my hands and hit the floor. I said, "I trusted you both of you." Madison had the decency to look at least slightly ashamed. She said, "It just happened, Emmy. We tried really hard to fight it, but we could not help ourselves." I told her harshly, "Do not call me Emmy." That childhood nickname felt like yet another violation, another betrayal. I continued, "Nothing just happens like magic. For 5 months, you both made deliberate choices. Every secret phone call, every lie, every single time you looked me straight in the eye knowing exactly what you were doing behind my back." Tyler pressed the intercom button on his desk phone. He said, "Michelle, please come in here right now." Michelle entered the office moments later, carefully avoiding my eyes. Tyler told her, "Please escort Emily out of the building. She's very upset and emotional." I said firmly, "I am escorting myself out, thank you very much." My pride was still intact, even though I felt completely shattered inside. I looked at both of them and said, "You two absolutely deserve each other." In the elevator going down, the tears finally flooding out. By the time I reached my car in the parking garage, I was sobbing so hard I could barely breathe. The drive home was a complete blur. I only remember calling my mom from my apartment bathroom floor, curled up in a ball, unable to form coherent sentences through my hysterical crying. Mom and Dad arrived at my apartment within an hour, using their emergency key when I couldn't bring myself to open the door for them. Mom held me tightly while I told them every horrible detail. Dad paced around my living room, his face turning redder and redder with each revelation. He kept saying, "I will kill him. I swear I will kill that boy." Mom warned him, "Robert, watch your blood pressure, please," even though her own face looked just as furious. The next few days passed in a painful blur of cancellations and arrangements. Mom helped me contact all the wedding vendors to cancel everything, while Dad handled all the financial aspects and deposits. I returned the engagement ring to Tyler's apartment building and left it with the doorman. I couldn't bear to see him face to face. I later found out that Madison had already moved most of her belongings into his place. Family photos of them together were already arranged on shelves that used to hold pictures of Tyler and me. Tyler's email about dividing our shared possessions was coldly efficient and businesslike. He mentioned that Madison had helped him catalog all my remaining items that were still at his place. The betrayal went even deeper than I initially realized. Through mutual friends, I discovered they had been meeting secretly whenever I worked late at the office or traveled for business conferences. Madison had deliberately pursued him, creating excuses to see him alone, sending flirtatious texts and provocative photos whenever I was not around. The scandal spread like wildfire through our social circles. Some friends rallied around me and supported me completely, while others sided with Tyler, pointing out his power and influence in the business world. Several people admitted they had spotted Tyler and Madison at various events, but they chose not to say anything to me. Their cowardice hurt almost as much as the actual betrayal itself.
During those dark, terrible months, my mother became my absolute lifeline. She brought me food when I could not eat, listened to my endless crying and ranting, and stayed overnight when the loneliness became completely unbearable. She kept trying to mediate between Madison and me, inviting us both to family dinners that inevitably ended in tense silence or bitter arguments. Madison snapped at one of these awkward dinners when I refused to pass her the salt shaker. She said loudly, "You always got everything first, Emily. The good grades, the better job, the nice apartment downtown. For once in my life, I got something before you did." I said, with my voice shaking, "My fiancé was not some prize to be won in a competition, Madison. He was the man I loved and trusted with my whole heart." Mom put down her fork firmly. She said, "Madison Marie Thompson, you apologize to your sister right this instant." Madison shot back. "For what exactly? Being honest? Tyler chose me. He loves me now, not her." I stood up from the table, placed my napkin on my plate, and said, "I cannot do this anymore, Mom. I am so sorry." That was the very last family dinner I ever attended with Madison present. The ongoing stress of his daughter's bitter feud made Dad's heart condition significantly worse. He needed medication adjustments and additional doctor appointments. Mom seemed to age 10 years in just a few months. The lines around her eyes deepened as she desperately tried to hold our broken family together. 6 months after discovering Tyler and Madison's betrayal, I hit absolute rock bottom. My therapist diagnosed me with clinical depression and prescribed medication. Work became increasingly difficult as I struggled to concentrate on anything. I eventually lost a major client after a disastrous presentation where I burst into tears in front of everyone. My supervisor strongly suggested I take a leave of absence, but I realized that staying in Boston, where painful memories lurked around every single corner, would only make everything worse. When a marketing director position opened up at our company's Chicago branch, I applied immediately without even thinking twice. The interview went surprisingly well. My desperate need for change probably translated as genuine enthusiasm. 2 weeks later, I received the job offer. Mom helped me pack up my entire apartment, carefully wrapping photographs and keepsakes in tissue paper. As we sorted through my possessions, deciding what to keep and what to donate, she brought up the subject that hung heavy between us. She asked softly, "Will you ever consider forgiving Madison?" I continued folding sweaters without looking up at her. I said, "I do not know, Mom, not right now. Maybe not ever." She said gently, "Forgiveness is not about them deserving it, sweetheart. It's about freeing yourself from this pain." I replied, "I am freeing myself. I am moving to Chicago to start over." Mom sat down beside me on the bed and took both my hands in hers. She said, "Running away is not the same thing as healing, Emily. Can you understand the difference?" Tears filled my eyes as I said, "I need physical space and distance to even begin healing. Can you please understand that?" She nodded and pulled me into a tight embrace. She made me promise to call regularly and promise not to shut them out of my life completely. I promised I would stay in touch. Saying goodbye to my parents was harder than I ever imagined it would be. Dad held me longer than usual. His voice was rough and emotional when he said, "You go show 'em, kiddo. Build yourself a life so amazing they will choke on their regret." My first few weeks in Chicago were incredibly lonely and filled with constant doubt and second-guessing. My small apartment felt sterile and completely foreign. I worked ridiculously long hours just to avoid coming home to empty rooms. I ate takeout at my desk almost every night and fell asleep exhausted, hoping I would not dream. Then came the news that pushed the knife even deeper into my heart. Mom called early one Sunday morning. Her voice was hesitant when she said, "Emily, I think you should hear this from me rather than seeing it on social media. Madison and Tyler got married yesterday at a small courthouse ceremony. Their wedding was featured in Boston Magazine's society pages because of Tyler's business connections. The accompanying photograph showed them beaming outside the courthouse. Madison wore a simple white dress with my former engagement ring prominently displayed on her finger for everyone to see.
That night was my absolute lowest point. I drank an entire bottle of wine alone in my apartment, scrolled through old photographs of Tyler and me, and cried until my eyes were swollen completely shut. I called in sick to work the next day, totally unable to face the world. But something shifted inside me during those lonely hours alone. As early morning light filtered through my blinds, I made a firm decision. This would be the very last day I let them control my happiness and my life. I deleted every single photograph of Tyler from my phone, blocked both him and Madison on all social media platforms, and took a long, hot shower, imagining all my pain washing down the drain. At work, I refocused completely on my projects and campaigns. My boss noticed the dramatic shift and started assigning me bigger, more important clients. I built a solid reputation for creativity and determination, earning genuine respect in my new workplace. Our HR director, Jennifer, became my first real Chicago friend. She introduced me to her book club, and through her, I met other wonderful women and gradually formed a solid social circle. Jennifer repeatedly tried to set me up on dates with various eligible men, but I declined every single time. The idea of romantic vulnerability still terrified me beyond words. 4 months after moving to Chicago, I was assigned to represent our company at a major technology conference in San Francisco.
On the second evening of the conference, I attended a business dinner with potential clients. I ended up seated next to Michael Chen, a successful tech investor and entrepreneur who had recently relocated from Seattle. Michael was different from Tyler in absolutely every possible way. Where Tyler had been flashy and showy, Michael was understated and genuine. His quiet confidence and thoughtful questions drew people in naturally without demanding constant attention. When he talked about his work and his investments, his passion was absolutely contagious, but never arrogant or boastful. He asked for my business card after dinner, and I handed it to him with zero expectations. To my complete surprise, he emailed me the very next morning asking if I wanted to continue our discussion about digital marketing trends over coffee. Over the next 3 months, Michael and I maintained professional communication and collaboration. He referred clients to my agency, and I connected him with my Chicago business contacts. Jennifer noticed our increasingly frequent business lunches and raised her eyebrows knowingly. She told me, "He likes you, Emily, and not just professionally." I insisted, "We are just colleagues and business contacts." She laughed and said, "Colleagues do not look at each other the way he looks at you." Michael eventually invited me to dinner at a restaurant completely unrelated to any business matter. I panicked and nearly canceled twice before forcing myself to actually go. 20 minutes into our date, while we were discussing our favorite books, I had a full-blown panic attack. My hands started shaking uncontrollably, breathing became difficult, and tears filled my eyes without warning. Instead of being embarrassed or annoyed, Michael just sat calmly with me. He spoke gently and soothingly until my breathing slowly returned to normal. He drove me home afterwards with absolutely no pressure or awkward questions. The next day, beautiful flowers arrived at my office with a note that said, "No pressure, no expectations at all. I hope you are feeling better. Sincerely, Michael." That evening, I called Michael and told him absolutely everything about Tyler and Madison. He listened without interrupting once, then shared his own story of heartbreak. His previous marriage had ended when his wife left him for his business partner, taking half of their joint company in the divorce settlement. He said something that really stuck with me. He said, "Broken trust leaves permanent scars. Anyone truly worth your time will understand that healing is not a straight line." Over the following months, we slowly built a foundation of genuine friendship and trust. Michael never pushed for more than I could give. He respected all my boundaries while staying consistently present and supportive. 1 year after moving to Chicago, I barely recognized the person I had become. My promotion to senior marketing director came with a corner office overlooking the river, and most surprisingly, I had fallen deeply, completely in love with Michael.
Unlike Tyler's flashy, over-the-top courtship, Michael's love showed itself in steady, thoughtful, everyday ways. He remembered tiny details like my preference for oat milk and coffee and the true crime podcasts I listened to during workouts. He honored my independence while offering unwavering support. Most importantly, he never compared me to anyone else or tried to change anything about me. In June, Michael surprised me with a romantic weekend getaway to Michigan's beautiful wine country. We stayed at a charming bed and breakfast surrounded by rolling vineyards. On our final evening, we were strolling through an area with early summer blooms. Michael stopped beneath a trellis covered in climbing roses. He took both my hands in his and said, "Emily, this past year knowing you has been the greatest gift of my entire life." When he knelt down and pulled out a ring box from his pocket, panic flashed briefly through me. Images of Tyler's proposal threatened to ruin this perfect moment. But looking into Michael's eyes, all I saw was complete sincerity and genuine love. He said, "I am not asking for an answer today. I just want you to know that whenever you are ready, whether that is tomorrow or next year, I will be right here waiting." My eyes filled with happy tears as I whispered, "Yes, I am ready right now." We planned an intimate wedding for 30 close friends and family at a historic Chicago venue. At Mom's gentle request, I sent an invitation to Madison, more as a gesture of potential healing than any real expectation she would attend. Her response via email was brief and cold. She wrote, "Congratulations on the engagement. Unfortunately, Tyler and I have prior commitments on that date. Best wishes for your future." Our wedding day was intimate and filled with genuine joy. My parents and new friends and Michael's family were all there celebrating with us. Dad walked me down the aisle, whispering, "I have not seen you this genuinely happy in years, kiddo." Michael's vows reflected our journey together. He said, "Emily, I promise to remember that love is both powerful and fragile, requiring care and commitment every single day. I promise to be worthy of the trust you have given me, knowing how precious and hard-won that gift truly is." Now, standing at Mom's funeral, watching Madison's face as she realized I had married Michael Chen, the tech investor whose success had completely overshadowed Tyler's failing business ventures, I felt something unexpected, not triumph or revenge, but genuine peace. Over the following weeks, as we settled Dad and dealt with Mom's estate, Madison and I had our first honest conversation in 7 years. She confessed that her marriage to Tyler was miserable. He was controlling, constantly comparing her to me, and their finances were in ruins from failed investments. She said through tears, "I destroyed everything for a man who never really loved me at all. I thought I was winning, but I lost everything that actually mattered: our relationship, Mom's peace of mind, and my own self-respect." Here's what I learned from this entire painful experience. Betrayal reveals character, both in those who betray you and in how you choose to respond. The best revenge is not scheming or plotting, but genuinely building a life so fulfilling that their actions become irrelevant to your happiness. Trust your instincts when something feels wrong. Those gut feelings are usually protecting you from harm. And finally, healing takes time, professional help, and the courage to remain open to love even after devastating betrayal. To anyone facing similar betrayal, I offer this advice: feel your pain fully, but do not let it define your future. Seek therapy without shame. Surround yourself with people who genuinely value you. And remember that sometimes the universe has better plans than you could have imagined for yourself. Tyler and Madison did me the greatest favor of my life by showing me exactly who they were before I married the wrong person. Michael taught me what real love actually looks like: patient, steady, and worth every single bit of the wait.